Hi there. Welcome to Real Guitar Success Live. And this is a question and answer session for those of you who are new. I'll start off. Let me just tell you a little about what we're going to do. Those of you who've been here before, this is old stuff, so I'll keep it quick and simple. I'm going to answer all your questions. I have pre-submitted questions, and then I'll go on to answer questions in the chat. Hi, Tim and Mike. If you're live here, please feel free to ask questions. If you could start with the word question, I'll more likely see it. And if I miss it later on, please just ask again. I'll catch it later. Sometimes the questions get really long. And if you're watching this pre-recorded, great, good to have you here. Please put questions in the comments of YouTube as well. I do see those all the time. And at the most, maybe it'll take me a day or two to get back and let you know I've read your question. So I'd love to answer questions, and particularly I'd love to help you to enjoy playing your guitar even more. So let me know how I can help. At the end of this, after I answer your questions, I'm going to go ahead and do a drawing. This is for members of my Real Guitar Success membership. Once a month, we have a drawing for all those who have completed the 20 practice sessions that are included. And that's a new session each weekday of the week on different aspects of playing guitar. And I rotate through fingerpicking, theory, warm-ups, and other things. So if you're not a member yet, would love to have you there. But all of these questions should be able to apply to everybody as well. So with that, let me start with the first question that I see on my pre-submitted questions. And I'll try, if I see you're asking a related question, to chime in as well. But I might have to come back at it. Here we go. Let me see. I want to have my good pick ready. I like this one. This will work. And by the way, let me mention I just got a new tuner. Let me see. Can you see this? Let's get over there. There we go. This is my first chromatic tuner. Now, I was always wondering about a chromatic tuner. Look at this. It's not. See the little things swirling around? So the idea is for those of you who aren't familiar with chromatic tuners, the idea is to get this to where it pretty well stays still. It never stays 100% still. But I'm told you don't have to be to get it 100% still to be in tune. It seems to work well. I'm still getting used to it. I have a bunch of tuners. I let me know if you think you'd ever like to see me do like a review of the different tuners and which ones I like best and which ones I like least. But other than that, I'll just share if I get something new once in a while. This is something I've always wondered about, a chromatic tuner, and maybe there's some other people out there wondering too. So the first question, my problem is picking the right strings. If I watch what my right hand's doing, I screw up in the left hand, and basically if I watch the left hand, I screw up in the right hand. Any advice? Bob. So yes, certainly this is one of the major dilemmas of playing guitar is you got two things going at the same time. It's kind of like patting your head and rubbing your belly, and that's the nature of the beast. Of course, ultimately, the idea is to practice it enough to where you can get both hands to work together. And it's an ongoing process. When I practice, I deliberately practice exercises to help coordinate the two hands. Now, often I find when people are frustrated with this, the issue is they have some expectations that are unrealistic, that your hands are just going to work together. You can look at something a couple times and practice it, and it just works. It's an ongoing process. This is an education you're doing constantly. I mean, you're educating your hands and your fingers to do what your brain tells you. And you have two hands, so they need to coordinate together as well. One of the best ways to work at that is every time you practice, and I'm hoping that's pretty much every day, at least a little bit, is to practice some warm-up exercises and pay attention to how the pick and the hand are working together. Are they going down in the right place at the right time? The reason these are so valuable is the idea is you're going to practice exercises you've done over and over, and you're not having to think about what should I play. That's done. History. You've memorized it. You can focus on the little subtleties of getting your fingers in just the right place, coordinated together, getting right near the fret, hitting the string just the amount of pressure, hitting the different strings at the right time. And it's an ongoing process. You do this every warm-up, every day, hopefully. Or, I'd like to see people practice at least 5-6 days a week, at least a little bit. And if you do that, it doesn't mean you'll always get it perfect, but you'll see progress and it'll give you confidence. And you'll see when you get to more complex stuff, when you start messing up, you'll know that you can do it. You have to first memorize and get the more complex notes, and then the habits that you've developed through the warm-ups are going to start paying off. Now, I'm going to answer the next question as well, because they're somewhat related. I've been playing for the last 9 months, and progress is completely halted. I can't play any songs normally. Any advice? This is Shivansu. I hope I said it right. Shivansu. So, again, expectations. I created a post, which I'll add a link to, showing the normal, and what's normal, but the normal progress of playing guitar. And I deliberately put on there, usually after the first 6 months or so, in that kind of second phase, you start feeling like you can't do anything. It's partly just psychological. You've probably, if you were looking out overhead, you probably see you've come a long ways, but now your expectations are higher. You've kind of got some of the basic stuff and you expect that to just be gone and move on to more complex stuff. But you're going to kind of have to work on the basics over and over. Just know that this is a period and you'll break through it. You just need to be persistent, and you will need to develop the habit of practicing whether or not it seems like it's making a difference. That's something I've had a little hard time myself coming to grips with. You practice because you know you're supposed to practice, not because every time you practice, you're going to get a result and you can say, yeah, it worked. It's just the nature of the beast. Over the long run, you will see the results, but not on any day or even sometimes week or month. This is normal, to feel like right about 6 months to a year, like you're not getting anywhere. Just keep at it, keep going. It is a good time, by the way, to probably go back and review, both because review is good. Inevitably, you didn't master everything 100%. Matter of fact, if you did, you're waiting too long to move on to the next thing. And this is a chance to go back and review and get it a little better. But a big one is a psychological advantage. When you go back and review, it reminds you of the things that used to be hard that are easier now. And that gives you some confidence and encouragement. It's a good time to go back and review it right about now. And you decide, what you want to review. I suggest there's no magic number there. You go back and you find something that you think's interesting to review, or that you remember you have some problems with, or you knew it was easy and you just want to feel good about it. So you have to decide what's the best place to start reviewing. But I'd encourage you maybe to review a little more than you think you need to, because I've just noticed over time, students generally underestimate the value of going back and just playing some old things from time to time. I would personally add that to a regular schedule. Once a month, go back and just count a session or two of practice every month as a review session. Maybe in the early stages, even once a week, just go back and do a review of the things that you've done for the last 4 or 5 days. So it's a cycle thing. Just keep the review as part of your normal practice routine. Next question. So good. And I mentioned they're kind of tied together because this often happens at about that time too, where you feel like your fingers and your pick just can't keep it together. It seems like if you pay attention to one, the other one messes up. That's one of the common things that happens when you're feeling like that. And going back to regular warm-ups and maybe even reviewing some things is one possibility. Next, Shulamit. One of the techniques used in improvisation is bending. Can it be done on acoustic guitar? Heck yeah. Oh, no. Let's do that again, huh? Yeah, something like this. How's that for bending? Okay. Shulamit is also asking, could I demonstrate? So bending on acoustic guitar, a couple of things. It's same as electric guitar, but electric guitar generally has lighter strings, so it's a little easier. You can bend farther and more easily with it. But it still works the same on acoustic guitar. I like to bend more up in here. I find that it's a little easier because I have more string to bend from. That said, you can put lighter strings on your acoustic guitar. I'll mention now that I'm experimenting with lighter strings on this guitar. And so far, I'm really liking it. When I say lighter strings, I normally use what they call light strings. An acoustic guitar that starts with a 0.12. And I changed to the strings they call extra lights normally. Another way to look at it is it starts with the numbers 0.10, okay, 10 instead of 12s. That's the high string I'm talking about, and the rest of the strings are all in proportion to that. So I'm liking it, and it allows me to bend a little more and to play when I'm improvising a little easier without getting tired so fast. I found I have to hit lighter, and it took a little adjustment, but I think I'm doing fine. I like it for fingerstyle as well. I just have to not dig in and hit the string so hard. It's going to buzz. It helps that I have my guitar adjusted well, so it doesn't seem to buzz or cause any weird notes unless I hit too hard. So, got 2 for 1 there. Thanks, Shulami. And she asked another question about triads. This is an interesting question. Let me see if I can do it justice. And if you're on the call, Shulami, feel free to join in. I don't see you yet, but I know you often join in. So the question is, I want to spice up my improvisation and add some triads. If I don't know what chords are being used, she's playing to a backing track. She says, if I don't know what chords are being used, is there any way of just knowing what triads will work, even though I don't know the actual chords, I know the key? Well, first of all, let's clarify. Triads simply means the 3 notes in a chord. So I think what she's actually asking is what I call baby chords, which are generally the triads, 3 notes from a chord, but played in a higher pitch. So sometimes you can use them as part of your solo. And to answer your question more specifically, I only occasionally use that as part of a solo. I never really, if I don't know the chords of the song, see, I always know the chords. I'd start there. I'd say figure out the chords. Just forget the question, just figure out the chords of the song, regardless. And that, I would think, would be the first thing to do. If you can play triads without knowing the chords to a song, I'm not sure. I'd have to play around and see, but I would figure out the chords to a song, so I'd never be in that position. Now, here's the other thing. I often use triads as part of arpeggios. That means playing 1 note at a time. So that's a chord, but I'm playing 1 note. So I'm playing up the chord, and then I'm adding some scale-wise. Now, in that case, I'm playing with the chords of the song, and yeah, I'm going to need to know the chord. Doesn't mean I need to know the name of the chord necessarily. My fingers can go to a sound, and maybe I won't think that's an E chord. I happen to remember that one, but I don't always think that, but I know that's the chord that's playing by sound. Just like if I say, ah, I can repeat back, ah. You don't have to name the sound. That's the sound that you're making. So I'm playing triads, 1 note at a time. It's arpeggios. Be good to know the chords that you're playing with. That helps you on several levels. I'm going to sidetrack just a little bit, but I think this is helpful. And I can go more into this if you ask questions about it. Generally speaking, when you want to improvise or especially memorize a song, there's 3 kinds of learning. There's the intellectual part, and that's where you say, I know the chords intellectually, what chords are being played and where, how many measures and all that, what key I'm in, what the time signature is, those kinds of things. Then there's the audio. You basically memorize the sound, and a lot of times I'm shifting towards that because that enables me to play. I'm listening to the sound in my head and trying to replicate it, and that enables me to play the subtleties that make it sound musical. And then, of course, there's the muscle memory, which is kind of this road of you practice something enough and your mind and your fingers get together. So when you say in your head, play the 5th fret, your finger goes there automatically. Or when you hear in your mind that note, da, your finger can go there because it knows the audio that's connected with the muscle memory. Enough on that right now. This is a part of I go, when I learn a song or if I'm improvising and practicing, I want all those to work together. I want to know what chords, what key it's in. Generally, you know, at least have a good feel for the tempo. I don't know that I have to know the exact number, but I have a sense of that's, you know, in that range, fast, extra fast, medium tempo, and so on. I encourage you to try, and the more you do that, the better you get at it. You don't want to stop and study theory, so you just get the intellectual part divorced from everything else. They all work together. So, thanks, Shulamit. Good question. Here's a fun one. Fun because I like maybe a lot of guitar players. I like guitars. I like to buy guitars. Matter of fact, I probably have more guitars than I deserve in terms of how many I actually use. But okay, I can do that. And Paul is asking, can you recommend Acoustic-Electric under $800? The second part of this question is, does the baby or 3/4 size guitars, the smaller guitars, like the Taylor, or Martin has one, I think. Taylor is the most well-known, the baby Taylor. At the $800 price point, are these a good bet? Do they have the fullness of a bigger guitar, rather? To answer that question, no. But that doesn't mean they're bad. It's a sound. Let me go back to my face for a minute. That's a sound that is very useful, the higher range sound. And of course, there's some practicality to have a smaller guitar for travel and everything, and maybe for smaller hands for some people. So the Baby Taylor is a good sounding guitar. If you're looking for a depth, the bass end, you probably want a little bigger body. But there's more options than just small and big. There's the baby guitars, the 3/4 as you call it, and then there are things called parlor guitars. There are concert guitars. I don't get all the names straight. This one here is a smaller body. Let me show you. Yeah, we got to show the guitar if we're going to do that. This is a slightly smaller body with a cutaway. I think they call it concert, or Yamaha does. It's not standard across all brands. And then the Dreadnought is the bigger guitar. You can see in the background a Dreadnought. It's a little bigger body than this. It's also a shape thing. You can have a jumbo guitar that's as big as a Dreadnought, but it's more of a two rounded parts, and the Dreadnought has more, this part is like straighter. So more options than that. For $800, it depends. It really does depend on what you want and what you like. And the best advice I can give you is nobody's going to tell you what guitar to buy, because it is based on, at that point, you've been playing. I could tell you on a good starter guitar based on the styles of music you want to learn and your level. But if you've been playing for a while and you want to spend some money and get a guitar that sounds good, it's going to have to sound good to you. That said, Yamaha in general, I know, gives you a lot of bang for buck. So an $800 Yamaha is probably a good value for the money. That said, all the major brands that you know for the $800 are not going to be that far difference in quality. They can't. They couldn't survive in the marketplace. That's the nature of capitalism, so to speak. They're competing with each other. And if somebody had a great guitar that was so much better than all the other ones would have to probably just level up, right? Or they'd be spending so much money at one point they couldn't do it anymore. They're losing money, and they'd have to bring down the price. Something would give. So a Martin, a Taylor, these are the major brands I know. Yamaha, of course. There's Siegel. I don't know. There's at least a dozen good brands that are probably in the $800 roughly equivalent. And when people buy guitar, it's not just objective. Certain brands mean something to you, and some sounds are different. So a certain style might be something that would appeal to you more than it would appeal to me. So I can't tell you this guitar is the one I would buy for $800 and that would work for you necessarily. That said, it'd be nice if you could go hear them. A little harder right now. I don't know how to do that if you can't go to a store and try them out. I have bought guitars off the internet without just taking a chance. And generally speaking, it's okay. It's like I said, I know in the price range of the major brand, as far as the actual sound quality, they're going to be fairly similar. $800 is kind of a middle range. This guitar, just in comparison, is probably about a $1,400 guitar, $1,200 or $1,400. I don't remember exactly. And a lot of my guitars cost a lot more than that. If I were buying an $800 guitar, if it were me, again, I don't want to say this is going to be the guitar for you. I'd probably go with the Yamaha, and I'm thinking of the LS 1600. Now, I have a similar model, but a little higher model, and they go for a little over 1800 normally. If you could get a used one for under 800. Now, here's the most important part about all that. Probably should have started with this. Whatever guitar you get, leave some money left over to have it adjusted. That will make some of the biggest difference. And I'm talking about get the guitar set up properly so the strings are close to the frets, and set up for the strings you're going to be using. You might want to try, Paul, the 10s, just a suggestion, see if you like them. Again, you're going to have to be careful how hard you hit the strings or they'll buzz or twang. But normally 11s or 12s would be fine for most people. And have it so that, it's going to cost you. You're going to adjust the nut, the bridge, maybe the neck of the guitar. Even a $3,000 guitar, I would even more so have it adjusted slightly. They just, unless you buy it from a shop that they do that as part of the price, you're better off having it done by a professional. Now, I buy guitars, and I have a guy here close to me that'll adjust all my guitars. He adjusts them for me. And if they get out of whack, we do it again. But I know some stores do, and Sweetwater Online also has that service. I think it's $60, and they'll put new strings on the guitar before they ship it and make sure it's all, the strings are close to the frets and the neck's adjusted. I think it's $60. But I bought a guitar from them before, and I just paid the $60. It saved me having to take it somewhere and then wait and go back and pick it up. They have a real expensive service. I haven't tried it. I don't know that much about it. It's like $200. They have a machine, really tweak the guitar out. Probably wouldn't do that unless we're talking guitar worth thousands of dollars. Okay, have it adjusted. Buy a $500 guitar, a $600 guitar, and $700 guitar used, and have it really tweaked out adjustment-wise. Probably get a lot of bang for your buck. Stick to a brand that you know. It's probably safer at this point. Unless somebody's making you a guitar, and, well, again, you'd want to know they're a well-known maker. Okay, that was kind of a long answer. Let me try something shorter. John, if I were participating in the monthly practice sessions, how do you leave the plan, go elsewhere on the site, and return? So he's talking about my Real Guitar Success website. He is in the sessions of the Guitar Monthly sessions. How could I show that? I'll make a short video and add it to the notes for this. But in general, every page on the guitar membership site has a home feature up at top. Go to the home and they'll give you the dashboard, and you can go anywhere from there. It's very simple. You can go back to the practice sessions. You'll see big square boxes. You can go to the series of lessons, the beginner's journey, the bar chords for every one course. You can go to the Real Guitar University, where there's finger picking courses, there's improvisation courses, strumming, theory, everything. You can also find access to the live sessions through the university. Also, on the left-hand side is a navigation that shows up everywhere you go, including in the monthly practice sessions. So that's another way to get to the different parts. You can experiment with both and see what you think is easier or faster. I tend to just go home and go from the dashboard, but you can go just about anywhere from the left sidebar. Okay, thanks for asking, John. This next one has a few parts to it, and I'll try to do it justice. Let me simplify the question a little bit. The scale of C has 7 distinct pitches: C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Yeah, and then repeats back to C. 7 distinct, not 8, because 8 is C again. Question 1, what do you call these 7 distinct pitches? Well, distinct pitches is not a bad name for them, but I understand maybe you're saying in the context of the scale, we can also, tongue's getting tired, I think. We can also call them, that was better, scale degrees. Yeah, I just have to talk slower. Scale degrees. And so if you say the third note in the scale, C, D, E, is E, it's also the third scale degree. Why are we focused on major and minor triads? That's the second question. I didn't know we were focused on major and minor triads. So maybe there's another way of asking that question. If you take the scale and you build a chord off of each note in the scale, you're going to have a whole series of major and minor chords if you're using the exact notes from the scale. So the C, if you build a chord off that, it's going to be C major. The D, the second degree, is going to be D. That's going to naturally fall a minor chord if you use notes from the scale. It's going to be D minor, and so on, until you get to the seventh degree. In the case of C, it's B, right? That is going to be diminished. So we don't just talk about major and minor triads. It's a diminished chord, B, again, using notes from the scale. In singing, this is the third question, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, is it applicable only to the scale of C? No, it works on every scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do is called solfege. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, it's not so much used in the States, but it is used more in Europe and Asia. It is used in the States, and often more so for singing. We teach at my school the Yamaha educational course for children, generally 4 to 6-year-olds. And we use that a lot, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Yamaha tells me the reason is twofold. One is it's easier to sing the notes, to say do, re, mi instead of A, B, C, that kind of thing. Or numbers, 1, 2, 3. They prefer solfege. And they said kids, young kids are learning their alphabet, A, B, C, and they don't want to confuse the letter alphabet with words and all that with music. They like to keep them separate at that age, and later on maybe add, yes, in the scale of C, do is C, same, do, re. A lot of people remember do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do from that song. I think it's from The Sound of Music. Do, a deer, a female deer, re, a drop of golden sun, and so on. Oh, well, I don't know too much more about it than that, but I hope that was helpful for some. I found a link to a theory website that might help you also, Michael, kind of expand on that a little more. I'll include that in the notes as well. Jeff says, my granddaughter wants me to teach her guitar. Go, Jeff. Start there. Teach her. You are going to learn, and it's a great relationship builder. Your granddaughter will remember this the rest of her life, how grandpa taught her some guitar, even if it only lasts a few months, whatever. Go as long as you can. I really recommend it. And she's perfect 8. That's a perfect age. Get any ideas on the starter guitar. I know you mentioned a stellar harmony. I don't know that guitar specifically, but I think it has steel strings. I just heard it. I really would recommend nylon strings. You could get the steel string guitar and put silken steel strings on it. They're softer, easier on the fingers. Or you could buy a 3/4 guitar with that's made for nylon strings. Yamaha makes a good one. I usually recommend students at my school get this Yamaha 3/4. I forget the model number. I forgot. But, you just call it Yamaha 3/4 on the internet and it'll come up. The thing is that metal strings really hurt their fingers, and they're having a hard time with muscle. They're strengthening their fine motor coordination. They're trying to learn where to put their fingers, get coordinated, and then they're in pain. It's just a lot to ask a young child. Some can get over it, but you're really swimming upstream. Start with nylon strings or those silken steel, which are easier on the fingers. Great question, Jeff. I love to start. I love to have kids learn music, but even more so, I love to have to help people develop that relationship through music of, grandpa teaching their kid or mom teaching her kids music to sing or play guitar or whatever. I see it all the time in my school, and it's really heartwarming. John asked, after tuning the open strings, I find that some of these notes on other parts of the neck are slightly out of tune. Yes, that's a common thing. How far do I need to go with this? I mean, how much fussing do I need to do to try and get this thing? I'll tune. So he's saying I'll tune this open, and it's perfectly in tune. I'm very familiar with this. And then you go and play an E up here, and it's slightly out of tune. This is the nature of guitars. You see what's happening when you play the open string and you press the string, you're bending the string slightly. You see that? No, probably not, but it is. Take my word for it. You're bending the string when you press it down on the neck. Here's the thing. The higher your strings are off the neck, the more that's going to happen. Hence, the value of having your guitar adjusted and get those strings as low as possible. Now, we're also talking about intonation. Guitars are made so that, hopefully, when you play a note here and here and here, they're all in tune. If if one's in tune, they're all in tune. But that's not the case with all guitars, unfortunately. And needless to say, the more expensive guitar, the more likely you're going to be able to get perfect intonation. That's what they call that, perfect intonation. On an electric guitar, we adjust these little scrolly things up in the bridge. On an acoustic guitar, it's pretty well set once you get the guitar adjusted. The bridge doesn't move, and the string height hopefully will be, in a good place where when you press down, you're not pressing that far. I'm talking, I was watching a review on a $7,000 Yamaha acoustic guitar. And the guy said, it's amazing. I can play a note here, and I play a note here, and it's actually all in perfect tune. Normally, guitars, it's never going to be perfect. What a lot of guitar players do, and this might help you right now, is they'll tune with a chord or a chord that they're going to be using a lot. So if you're playing in certain keys, pick maybe a chord or two from the major key and try and get so that chord is in tune. Because now it's going to be, if you're going to be playing that chord a lot, that's what you want. If you're just tuning the open strings and then when you play guitar and it's slightly out of tune, it's kind of disconcerting. I know that. So that's one aspect. It's not a solution, so to speak, but it is a practical thing if your guitar is not perfect intonation. And needless to say, a lot of acoustic guitar players aren't playing right up in here. I do sometimes because of the lead guitar stuff I'm doing. Jimi Hendrix was known for getting his guitar out of tune, but yanking it with his fingers to be able to play the note in tune. He just could hear the note, and he just move his fingers slightly. We're not all there, huh? I get it. I'm not. Maybe you are. I'm not. Okay, thanks, John. Great question. Let's go over to the live questions and see what we got. Now's a good time, if you haven't, to ask a live question. I'm just going down, first of all, looking for the word question. Okay, Tim is asking, I really enjoy the lessons with the backing tracks. Yes, I love backing tracks myself. By the way, I practice almost every day with some backing tracks. It's part of my practice. It usually is the more fun part of my practice. Anyway, I digress. Is there a catalog of backing tracks on your website? I haven't seen it. No. Something that might be useful for members of RGS. Good to know. I appreciate your vote there, and I'll keep that in mind. Right now, the way the backing tracks are is I present the backing track directly to the lesson that it applies to. He's asking if there's, like a whole library you could just go through and try different backing tracks. I will keep that in mind, seriously. Thanks, Tim. Hello from Ontario, Canada. Hey, Tim Markle. Shulamit, you're back. Oli, apart from just practicing until your hands bleeds, try not to do that. Are there any techniques you can give for bar chords? Yes. And I don't recommend doing what you're saying, just practicing the bar chords until your hand hurts and then next day doing the same thing over and over. Break it down. Practice parts of the bar chord. And some breakdown, you can look on, I have several exercises to practice on parts of the bar chord. One part is just the bar. Practice the bar and getting all the notes to sound. And do that a little every day. I don't mean once and then move on. I'm talking make this a part of your warm-up for the 2 weeks, that kind of thing. Then practice the partial bar. So here's a bar chord. No bar, still a chord. But you can play that bar, put your first finger over. It's not a bar chord now. It's actually easier because you're not trying to bar the whole thing. And the high strings aren't working, but you can use these, they're power chords. The simplest power chord is just 2 fingers. Start there. Okay, now you know how I was brought up. That's really a bar chord. Anyway, I got off track again. That's a simple bar chord. You want to add more to the bar chord, just add more fingers and do it and move those around. Get so you can move around. Then add the bar and the fingers together. So it's kind of a step-by-step process. The biggest problem I see with people with bar chords is 2. They don't have that step-by-step process. They just try to jump into the bar chords, play them in songs, they got a bunch of other things going on and they're trying to get that bar chord. They only come around to it a few times in the song, and you're dead in the water. You're going to have to play for years and years to get that bar chord right. Some people are just naturally gifted, let's face it. But there's a much better way. Practice the bar chord before you need it, not in a song and then expect to get it. Practice it before you get it. You don't have to perfect it before you use it in songs, but at least get some good exercises under your belt before you use it in a song. And that's why I encourage students to practice bar chords before they think they're going to need them. Don't come to a song where you need the bar chord. Now you got to stop and wait until you can play the bar chord. The second thing is have a system. And I provide Real Guitar Success members a whole course on that, broken down just like I said, and more, with backing tracks and ways to practice them and little challenges to kind of get you to play something until you really get it. That's the key. It's called Bar Chords for Everyone, and it's part of the Real Guitar Success membership. If you just want to go on YouTube and find some exercises, that's a way to go. And I have some on my blog as well, some of those exercises. So there's a lot available nowadays. If you want to save time, just sign up for Real Guitar Success and go through my system. I mean, I figured this out, but, I'm all for spending the time and figuring things out on myself once in a while, too. Now, next question. Let's see. I'm looking for a question. Dora, have you heard of a Catala guitar model, G050 guitar? Mine is probably 50 years old. No, I've never heard of that. Catala Guitarras. I could say it must be made in something Latino, Mexico or Spain, because of the word guitarras. Might be a Spanish guitar. Nylon strings. Curious, but no, I don't know anything about it. Let me go on to the next question. Question. But Mark says Martin has changed their customer service to non-existing. I had never bought a Martin guitar. By the way, my brother, this goes back to Paul's question, he has a Martin guitar that cost him under $800. I think it was, he said like $600. He bought it a while ago, so he doesn't remember exactly. It's Acoustic-Electric cutaway. He likes it, and I played it. It plays well. Just my 2 cents there. But again, I'd probably lean towards the Yamaha. It just seems like because they're not as, I think, because they have that mystique of a Martin or Taylor, because so many artists play those, Yamaha will actually give you a little more quality for the same money. But I can't say that for sure, really. Can you provide any tips for practicing transition between D and B minor bar chord? Tisara, thanks for asking. Great question, actually. This is a change that a lot of people have a hard time with. And also going from the B minor to the G. It's because the B minor is in the key of D. It's the 6th chord, D, E, F, G, A, B. It's a 6th chord. So it makes a lot of progressions use that. So in general, when practicing chords like this, first of all, we have to distinguish you're going to be using the bar chord or a simpler form like this. That's a B minor without the bar. If you're going to use a simpler form, start by looking to see what notes you have in common. You'll notice the D, second finger, that note stays there, and no, it's not going to stay there. It's not going to work. Matter of fact, you have to pretty much take all the fingers off. So go slow and figure out where your fingers are going to go. Strategize. I'm going to move this one over there. I usually put those 2 down first and then the 3rd finger in the middle. Then back to the B minor. I'm making that little chord with my fingers and then playing it. So spend a little time thinking out, watching where the fingers go. Don't expect to get it perfect. You're trying to intellectual, but remember that's part of the 3 learning things. But listen while you're doing that to train your audio too. Then just practice those 2 chords a little bit every day. That's the most powerful thing I've found, actually, is not some advanced technique. Those are all helpful, but the routine of coming at something over and over and over. And even if you're not using the most sophisticated techniques to get from one place to the other, you'll figure things out just by doing it over and over and over. As opposed to doing it once, letting 4 or 5 days go by, and then coming back and spend another 20 minutes on it, and then letting another week go by. You kind of forget everything. Every day, a little bit, 10 minutes kind of thing. And just keep practicing that. Start just by practicing without any beat, and then eventually get to where you do a beat. 1, 2, 3, change. 1, 2, 3. I use a metronome, but you can just kind of use, feel the beat in yourself. That forces you to change on time. And that's what you want to do, is get from where you can change, leisurely, because in the song you can't. Oh, again, I can't see my guitar. You don't want to stay just without a beat, because when you try and play a song, you have to change on time. So practice something that'll give you that impetus to change at the right beat on time. And go slow at first. That's another mistake I see people make, is they try to do it with a beat, but they try to make the beat too fast and they can't keep up. Go as slow as you need to, get it, and then pick up the speed. Next question. Question. Mark says, in case you didn't see this, beware the company you purchase your guitar from and their customer service. He's saying basically, if you need some help, you better know if they have good customer service or not, if something's not right or the guitar needs some adjustment or something. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that makes sense with everything. Next question. Okay. So now I've run out of everything that I can see that says question. If I miss your question, if you didn't put the word question in front, maybe you could just ask again, and because I'll see the ones down at the bottom. If you can put the word question, great, but even if you don't, I'll see it now. In the meantime, I'm going to go through and pick out a winner for this month's guitar practice session drawing. Let me put down my guitar for a minute. And they're all in the hat here. And again, these are people who have completed each practice session. There's one a day, 5 days a week, for each month, 20 in total. And they're in different aspects of playing guitar, finger picking, theory, some chords, strumming, and so on. Warm-up exercises, jamming, improvising. I'm not supposed to look, huh? No looking. Okay, let's stir them up so I make sure I'm not seeing. So this is the winner of this month, and they're going to get a $50 Amazon gift card. We need sound effects. Dora, you are the winner, Dora. Congratulations. Good work on completing the month's practice sessions. Good work to everybody, really. The real winner is you, if you've gotten a little better on guitar, and you can have more joy with playing your guitar. But Dora, you'll get an Amazon $50 Amazon gift card too. You can buy a new tuner. Oh, well, that might not be the case. Okay, let me calm the throat, see if there's any more questions. Last minute questions? Anybody? I'm looking through and see if I missed something. Interesting. Dora says she got her guitar years ago from a place in San Francisco called Saga Music. I'm familiar with those. Buy violins from them for the store. Okay, I don't see anything that's obviously a question. A lot of comments, which is why I asked to put the word question, because if you put a question in there, they kind of all look the same to me. This is good to know for everybody. He said, Mark says he bought a Martin and out of a store warranty, 45 days, it developed 2 cracks, and Martin won't even answer their phone or emails. Sorry to hear that. I've never bought a Martin, but I think I might think twice now if I was tempted. Okay, that's it. That's all the questions. I'll go down below, make sure somebody added a question. Again, if you have a last-minute question, I'm happy to answer it. Thomas, thank you for allowing me to make others aware of what I'm going through. You're very welcome. Oh, yes. I see a couple of questions. Nate Dogs. Any tips on strumming? Like I know how the basics. I need help after finding strumming in songs. So I've had this question before. There is no one trick to know what strum to use for any song, but I'll tell you my process for going about this. I'll listen to a song, and I'll often play it on YouTube, and then you got to at least be able to play part of the song with the chords. And I'll just play a very simple down strum to just get the beat to start with. Just trying to feel the beat. Actually, I first just tap my foot and feel the beat, and then I'll try strumming the guitar. Then I'll start playing around with the simple strums and see which one kind of fits. I'll find the simplest strum I can to work that song, start learning the song, and then start upgrading my strum to something more complex if I want. The problem I see students have is they're often trying to get a complex strum to fit a song that they don't know the song yet. And they can't tell if it's the right strum or not, or if they're just not applying it correctly because they don't really know how to play the song properly and change in the right places. Get the changes in the simplest strum as you can, so that's not the issue, and then add complexity to the strum. I do have, this is the next thing about strumming, that if you know the basics, kind of down, down, up, start learning. Oh, let's go back to here. Learn to listen to your strum and hit different parts of the strings. That's what makes that's a straight down up strum, into this. This to this. I'm tilting my hand as I go down and tilting up on the way up, but I'm hitting the lower strings and the high string. Not necessarily just a bass note, but the lower side. Makes a big difference in the feel, and of course that's what strumming is about, it's that rhythm. Takes practice. You're not going to just think it, get it, and you move on to the next thing. Good question. It's very valuable, worth your time if you got the basics of strumming to start looking at that. And I'll put a link to one video I remember I have on that. If I remember, I'll have to write some notes to remember that. And this is something I want to mention to everybody. If you think of a question afterwards, put it in the comments on YouTube. I will answer you. If you have some recommendations or some requests, put them in the comments on YouTube. I will see it. I won't see this chat later on, but I will see the comments in YouTube. I'm thinking of buying a bass guitar. That sounds like fun. Do you think learning that both instruments, the bass and guitar, is compatible? This is Antonio in the UK. That's a good, nobody's ever asked me that question. I played bass for years, by the way. I had a great time. It's just very physical, and I could get up and running and playing with a band faster than on guitar because it's just the nature of the beast. It's not just four strings. It's kind of like what a band needs. There's way too many guitar players for bass players, so I'd say 10 to 1. So there's a lot more need for bass players, so it's easier to play in a band because there's more need. I had a great time. Ultimately, I went back to guitar because of I write music, and it was instrumental guitar music, and it wasn't working to play bass in bands and write music on the guitar. And I hired great bass players who were better than me to do bass on my CDs. I think you could do both. Bass depends on your goals. If you want to play in a band, I think you could get up and running quicker on the bass than on the guitar. If you're going to learn two instruments in general, you got to plan on spending time on both. If you take your time you're playing guitar, chop it in half and put half and half, I think you're kind of hurting yourself because you're going to have a hard time seeing progress on either one and then be discouraged. So you got to plan for that. Plan on spending more time. If you're practicing a half hour a day on guitar and you're going to practice another half hour, you could maybe practice 20 minutes on bass. That will work. Kind of depends on your schedule and how you see your life going. If you're going to make time for that and it's worth it. That said, I think you're probably have fun with it. And, there's nothing wrong with it if you want to just put emphasis on the bass for a little while and get up and running and then put more emphasis on the guitar. I encourage you to kind of keep up the guitar at least. But a lot of the ideas and things that you think about are applied to the bass, but it's not an exact fit. Here's the biggest key about bass. and this, anybody who wants to learn bass should know this right up front. It's not the same as applying the guitar notes to the bass. The guitar has the lower four strings are the same names as the bass. So guitar players think, I can play guitar, I can play lead, I'll apply that to the bass. Bass is rhythm. You're thinking chords, what's the chord progression, and where's the beat? You're listening to the bass drum. It's a different way of thinking. It's a bass line. Think of somebody like Bach. When he writes a bass line, he's not thinking of like a melody person or a rhythm person. He's thinking the bass line that's going to work with the rest of the music. You are composing a bass line when you play bass. Put your energy there. Less notes, better rhythm at the right time in the right place. Just the right notes. Much different than thinking of playing either rhythm guitar or lead where you're playing a melody. And I'll vouch for that was something I had to get over and I wish somebody had taught me that early on, because that was a transition for me to play bass. But also I ended up taking what looked like really proficient technical-wise bass players places because I got it. I got the band, especially the singers, want me to play the right bass line that makes the whole band sound good, not constant soloing and interrupting other parts of the band, like the vocalist. Yeah, in one case, it was a female vocalist. She said, "You're out. You played over my singing one too many times." You're very welcome, Tim. Mark, you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm going to close up for now. I will be doing this again next month, the first Thursday of the month. And for those of you who have been with me for a while, you remember Ami used to co-host with me. Well, she has threatened to stop in next month as on the internet. We're going to try to figure out how to do this thing she's going to be in her home, I'll be in mine, and we'll be hosting her or having her on the live call as well. See how that works. I think it'll be fun. Thanks again. I look forward to seeing you all, if not before, next month. Bye.